All right, today we're jumping into a story that is so dramatic, so full of twists and turns, you'd think it was straight out of a movie. We're talking about the story of Purim. It's an incredible tale of how an entire community, literally staring down the barrel of total destruction, flipped the script and turned their absolute darkest hour into a massive, joyous celebration.
And really, that's the core question, isn't it? I mean, think about that. How does a carefully planned plot for genocide not only get stopped in its tracks, but actually become the very reason for a huge, happy festival year after year? Well, the story behind that amazing reversal is exactly what we're going to get into.
So, where does a story like this even begin? Well, like any great drama, it starts with a villain and a really, really sinister plot. So, let's set the stage. Okay, so the main bad guy here is a man named Haman. And we're not talking about some small-time troublemaker. No, this guy was a high-ranking official in the Persian Empire, way up in the inner circle. And he had one single-minded goal, the complete and utter destruction of all the Jewish people in the kingdom. Now, to get this horrifying plan moving, Haman needed to pick just the right day to carry it out. And how did he do it? He left it up to chance. He cast lots, which the text calls a pur, to let fate decide the exact date for the massacre. And right here, this is a huge piece of the puzzle. That one word, pur, is actually the root of the holiday's name. Purim is just the plural. Think about the crazy irony in that for a second. The name of this incredibly joyful celebration comes directly from the little object Haman used to pick the date for everyone's execution. Wow. But here's the thing about Haman's perfect plan. It was about to go spectacularly wrong. This is the moment the whole story just flips on its head, where everything you thought was going to happen doesn't. This is the great reversal. And this one line says it all, doesn't it? As soon as the king found out what was really going on, he decreed that the awful fate Haman had cooked up for an entire people, well, it should fall right back on his own head. It's just a stunning, complete 180 of fate.
And you gotta understand, this wasn't just an angry outburst from the king. This became the law of the land. He issued official, written orders, sealed with the royal seal and everything, that completely dismantled Haman's plot and started the ball rolling on the downfall of him and his followers.
I mean, can you imagine the emotional whiplash for the people? The month that they were dreading, this month that was supposed to be filled with sorrow and mourning, was suddenly, instantly transformed into a time of incredible joy and celebration. The reversal wasn't just political, it was emotional. It was absolute.
So after you survive something that monumental, how do you make sure that memory, that miracle, is never, ever forgotten? Well, the next step was to formalize it, to turn this moment of survival into a tradition that would last for all time. And the people who led this charge were the two heroes of the story, Queen Esther and her cousin Mordecai. They used their new influence and power, writing with full authority, to establish this holiday for good, making sure this incredible story would never just fade away. And they were really specific. They didn't just say, hey, remember this day. Nope. They laid out 3 clear ways to observe it. First, days of feasting and joy. Second, sending gifts of food to one another. And third, and this is so important, giving gifts to the poor. So from its very inception, it was designed as a celebration of community, generosity, and looking out for one another.
And get this. This wasn't just some local festival. These official letters were sent out across the entire Persian kingdom, all 127 provinces. That was a massive undertaking, making sure every single community, no matter how remote, got the news and could join in.
This quote just nails their intention. The whole point was to make this permanent. The decree was designed so that these days of Purim would be remembered forever, in every generation, by every family. They were creating this unbreakable chain of memory, connecting the future all the way back to this moment of survival. But the story doesn't quite end with just a new holiday. It also ends with the incredible rise of our hero. So let's take a look at the lasting legacy of Mordecai.
So after he foils Haman's plot, Mordecai's status just skyrockets. He's made second in command of the entire Persian Empire. The only person above him was the king himself. Talk about a comeback story, going from a man marked for death to one of the most powerful people on the planet.
But the text is super clear about what he did with that newfound power. He didn't just hoard it for himself. His whole purpose in this new job was to work for the good of his people.
Every move he made was about ensuring the safety and the well-being of his entire community.
And because of that, his legacy was sealed. He became this major figure held in the highest esteem, not just because of his fancy title, but because he consistently used his power to speak up for them, to look out for their welfare. He really defined what it means to be a true leader. And so we kind of end up back where we started, thinking about the power of memory. The story of Purim is one incredible blueprint for how a memory can endure, through dramatic events and official decrees and rituals. But it does leave us with a much bigger question to ponder. What does it truly take to make a story immortal, to make sure it gets told and retold and passed down through every single generation? It's a pretty big question to think about.